I'd like to call to order our Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners legislative meeting of December the 21st. Well, it's not our legislative meeting, it's our staff meeting, but it will be our last meeting we're going to bring forward. Why don't we introduce ourselves?
Hi, I'm Leslie Hervey, interim clerk.
Alicia Reese, Vice President of the Hamilton County Commission Board.
Good afternoon. I'm County Commissioner Denise Driehaus.
Jeff Ludo, County Administrator.
Thank you so much, Stephanie Summerall Dumas, President of the Board. And we will call forward Commissioner Greg Kesterman, our Health Commissioner. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we continue to see a lot of COVID within our community. This week, compared to last week when I was here before this board, we have 1,500 new cases of COVID. So we're up to 9,100 active cases of COVID-19 within our community. So it is certainly continuing to spread here in Hamilton County. Our daily 7-day case average is at 581 cases per day. I will caution, last week I mentioned that there were 2 days of data dumps from the Ohio Department of Health. I do believe those 2 days are still having an impact on the 7-day average. So this is slightly inflated, but it still remains higher than it was during our last peak back in September. Today's reproductive value is at 1.26 for Hamilton County and 1.17 for the region. So we are continuing to see growth of the pandemic, as already mentioned. And our percent positivity for Hamilton County and the region is at 10.6%. Deaths remain around 2 to 3 deaths per day. Once again, this is a delayed indicator, so if you had 100 people in the ICU today, it would take a little while for those to translate into outcomes. So some will get better, and about half will not make it out of the ICU. So we would anticipate to see some increases in the coming weeks just based on what is in the intensive care unit currently. As far as hospitalizations, these numbers continue to rise with no slowdown in growth. We have 642 people within our hospital systems, 178 within our intensive care unit, and 120 on ventilators. So these numbers are not quite back where they were December a year ago, but are currently trending in that direction. As far as the Centers for Disease Control transmission map, Ohio remains high transmission. Hamilton County has 535 cases per 100,000, so that's the highest we've been since we started using this map or tool. And our percent positivity is 11.22. We continue to have a lot of activity within our COVID vaccination clinics. We are seeing lots of kids still coming in, which is fantastic news. We are seeing tons of booster shots. About 70% of the shots that we are given are booster shots right now, which is excellent, and we continue to make lots of progress. As I say every week, I'm not sure what happened there. Leslie, I don't know if you can turn back on the slideshow. As I said last week, I was on 10. And that's fine if you want to click that way too. So testandprotectcincy.com continues to list testing sites as well as vaccination sites. You have 3 options when you're on that website. Lots of locations in Hamilton County providing both testing as well as vaccinations. If you're looking for a pediatric vaccine, you need a special location that has those. They differentiate that so you can make sure you go to the right type of clinic. Just briefly, last week at the request of the commission, our team came here to this building and provided vaccinations. We were able to provide nearly 100 vaccinations here at this site, and we have another date scheduled in January on the 19th. So we look forward to coming back. Just like all of our clinics, we offer booster shots. We offer all 3 vaccination types as well as pediatric vaccinations. We also provide free home test kits as well. The last slide I have talks about Omicron. This has been fastly moving. It's interesting, just a couple days ago, we knew Ohio had cases. We're seeing them around the state. We've not seen any officially here in Hamilton County. But that very first bullet, which says basically the several studies suggest that 73% of all the cases in the United States today, I should say at the end of last week, were Omicron. So we have Omicron here. We know it's spreading. We know it's spreading rapidly. All the more reason to continue to be cautious. We don't know the severity yet of the illness. That's still being studied, although I'd suggest that if it's been here for a little bit, we're not seeing any more severe cases, which is probably good news. And we know that the vaccine remains effective against it. So the message that you've heard me say now for a year, since a year ago when we first started offering vaccine, as soon as you can get vaccinated, please do so. And now that boosters are available, if you're eligible, we would ask you to. And the only eligibility requirements today for a booster shot remains age eligibility. If you're over the age of 16, booster shots are available, assuming you've had 6 months between your last Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. With that, I conclude and will happily take any questions.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'll open it up for Vice President Reese. You have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Commissioner. This being our last meeting this year, but not the last meeting with you in the future. Just wanted to take a minute to say, I want to thank you for all the work, and I just want to personally thank you. This is going into my first year now. Been great to work with. I appreciate the coordination. One of the big things about this COVID virus is that it broke down silos. So we've got, all health commissioners working together, all the jurisdictions, hospital systems, working together to try to fight this. And you've been flexible and creative and always open for ideas and always saying we got to just keep, mixing it up when possible to fight this. But I do got one question. How did they come up with these names? I'm saying, who's sitting back there coming up with the naming rights on this stuff?
So for COVID, they are using the Greek alphabet to name all of the variants, and they skipped a couple letters because one was too hard to say, and they skipped another letter because it was too close to the Chinese president's name. But it is the Greek alphabet that they're following.
That's interesting. I always wanted to
Yeah.
know that. And how do we know, when you say they're variant, so it's different than the last one? Is that, what makes it a variant?
So very similar to the flu, you'll hear annually they'll try and create a flu shot for the best strains that they know are circulating in other parts of the world. The flu and all viruses kind of mutate. They change their genetic code a little bit. And that makes it difficult for vaccines to work because vaccines are typically programmed to work against a specific strain of a virus. What we're finding with COVID-19, just like the flu, it changes. And it changes in populations where it's able to spread. So unvaccinated populations tend to be where variants happen because there's lots of virus activity happening. And as it changes, some will just die off and make no difference, but others are successful at spreading in humans and will spread around and create illness for folks. Each variant is different, so each time a new variant comes out, there's lots of questions. Will the vaccine be effective? Will it be more virulent or more make people more sick? And so we kind of look and study through science to determine what we need to do with each one. We've been very fortunate with COVID that the vaccines have been effective against all the variants that we're aware of so far, but that's always subject to change in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Kesterman, for the update, especially going into the holiday season here. I think people are very on edge about what's happening nationally and what's happening locally. So could you help us better understand with Omicron spreading more quickly, it seems, than Delta? Can you put that in perspective? Do you have like an analysis or a comparative where, Delta was spreading pretty efficiently? Omicron seems to be spreading more efficiently. Is it 2 times more? Or do you have anything like that, a comparative?
So the tool that is often used when studying illnesses like this is doubling time. So the Delta variant, my understanding is the doubling time, how long it would take twice as many people to get sick, was about 7 days. And the Omicron variant is 2 days. And so over the course of a week, you're making 7 times more people ill from Omicron.
Right. So, and you've said it a million times, the best defense is to get vaccinated, to get boosted if you are vaccinated, and to wear a mask to protect yourself and others. So I just want to reiterate that. One other thing related to testing, because so many people are looking for at-home tests. so that they, going into a relative's house, maybe on Christmas or Christmas Eve, people, I think, are nervous about putting people at risk. And so as far as test kits go, I know the library just got a shipment in this afternoon. And so can you remind us where those test kits are available?
So there are, the best spot to look for any kind of testing, first of all, is testandprotectcincy.com. On that website, it lists both the at-home test kits, including those at the library. There's 6 library locations kind of spread throughout the county where you can get those test kits. We are also offering them, Public Health is offering them at our Board of Election site and any other vaccine sites that we have, as well as our office at 250 William Howard Taft.
And as far as if someone has a test kit that says it's expired, can you elaborate on when it is no longer usable?
Great question. So all of the BinaxNOW home test kits received a federal extension on their expiration date. It's approximately 3 months from the date of expiration. I would strongly recommend, though, before you trust that statement, you take the lot number and you go to Google and you pull up the letter from BinaxNOW, and you'll actually find the official date.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
everything,
you.
Greg.
Commissioner, we always talk about, we appreciate your hard work. For me, words cannot express my appreciation for your due diligence, your openness, your flexibility. So I am trying to express that for the residents of Hamilton County. They just don't understand, and I want to say this publicly, you are the Commissioner of Health, but you go so far beyond what I think you even had to do. So I certainly appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And have a good holiday.
Thank you, you too,
Okay.
all of you. Thank you.
So we will move forward to item number 2, or budget adjustment number 46 for hazard pay and some other things. Mr. John Brugan, our finance person.
How are you, Commissioners?
Great.
So I'm happy to walk through all of the items on here. The bulk of this, as I've mentioned it to you, is about hazard payments. We made a number of hazard payments on the 15th of December, so we need to account for those in order to make our payroll payments, process payroll on the 29th of December. A lot of these we will end up being able to reimburse from some federal grant funding. However, it's going to take us a few weeks to process through all of that and get the reimbursement. So we want to make sure everybody gets paid on the 29th. So that's what the hazard payments are about. I'm happy to talk about the other items if you like.
Well, John, you sent a memo on December the 20th explaining all the elements of this resolution, but certainly I can open it up for anyone who has questions. Vice President Reese.
Thank you, Madam President. And certainly, we thought this was important. We want people to get their checks. So we added a meeting, or kept this meeting, so that that was the main purpose of this meeting today, because we certainly believe our workers are very important to us. I think in our last meeting, we expressed our concern in terms of the equity issue of hazard pay and making sure everyone certainly are compensated in a way that they understand we appreciate them. That's not necessarily in this particular item, but I understand in the first quarter, we'll be able to sit down and look at that item. However, I was told that the 513 relief bus, that's something I was asking about for some time, about hazard pay, because they've seen over 4,000 people. And my understanding that has been, I don't want to speak for the administrator, but can you talk about that? I understand that may have been corrected.
Yeah, Madam President, Madam Vice President, I know that there were some individuals that, because of their classifications, were initially left out, that were added back in as this process went along, that were specifically related to the 513 relief effort, 513 relief program, 513 relief efforts. That included multiple employees in the bargaining unit, multiple employees outside of the bargaining unit as well. So I'll follow, as I talked to you a little bit earlier, I'll follow up and make sure that that includes everybody who worked that bus, but my understanding at this point is that it does.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we talk about inclusion, and it includes everyone that was on the bus, certainly they should benefit from that. But other workers were out of the hazard pay, did not get it. Did that include other people that we had issues about, or I had concerns about, that have been not given hazard pay at all, or either half of what the other ones received?
Yeah, so Commissioners, I'm going to get you a full report on the mechanism used to allocate the hazard pay. The hazard pay was specifically assessed and allocated based upon a review of specific job classifications and whether or not there was face-to-face work with multiple people that led to elevated health risks, et cetera. So I can't speak right now to individual job classifications. I can tell you that on the 513 relief efforts, at some of the classifications that those individuals typically work in as a job duty would not have met the threshold, but when they moved out to the 513 relief efforts where they're interacting with, dozens of people in a day, that was viewed to be different. So I can't speak to the other classifications at this point, but I will say that by and large, that the way this worked, and I'll get the commissioner something on this in writing here very shortly, but that HR reviewed all the job classifications, made an initial assessment as to the eligibility for the ARPA funding under the Treasury guidance, sent that out to the department heads who reviewed that, need to either concur or ask questions or to disagree, and there was a process of deliberation amongst that. If these were union members, bargaining unit members, the lists were sent to the bargaining unit representatives and for a final determination to be made. So that was the process that was used. We know that when you apply that over thousands of individuals and dozens of job classifications, there are going to be some times when we need to go back and review that and remedy some things. But I do think that by and large, the determinations that were made were correct, at least as it relates to the Treasury Department guidelines and the job classifications. And as I've said, if we want to take another look as to how we apply or allocate those funds, we can certainly help the board in that process.
Thank you. I have no problem with 513 relief workers at all. I mean, that makes sense. I think, and I'll say this publicly again, we made our mistake when we asked the department heads to use their personal values, their evaluation of the different staff. Where I stand on this is no, not one person that was working, really even remotely, because they have to go out and interact with people. People come into their homes that are working. No, not one person should not get a hazard pay. They're still here to see today. They made it through. And I don't know how, and I keep getting more emails from people of how they had to work, came back, they got COVID from their supervisors, they lost their hair and all this stuff, and they're getting nothing. So and I'm going to ask my colleagues, not now, but I truly believe that everybody who made it through to do the work of the county should get something. Nobody should go untouched. And so I don't know how we go about doing that, but that's my stand. I think the mistake was made when we allowed the department heads to judge who should get it, who shouldn't get it. And so, I can understand maybe the difference in pay, maybe the $1,000 to $450. There should be no one that did not receive anything.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I could just briefly, under the Board of County Commissioners, it was either 1,000 or it was 450. So.
Well, that's not true, because I called you about the 450, and you explained to me how you guys thought you didn't want to make it look like it was half of what somebody else got. So that 450 was submitted to us, but that wasn't anything that.
No, I'm saying, you were saying that someone shouldn't have gotten touched.
Well, there's a lot of people have gotten nothing, Jeff.
Under the Board of County Commissioners or?
Well, we'll talk
Okay,
later.
okay,
When you
okay.
send me that list, then I'll take a look at it. And when we talk about the Treasury rule, I've said this before, and it bears repeating for me to have the public, that I understand the Treasury rule only allows us to do so much in certain categories. I said before, if we as a county need to give the money to some of the employees beyond the Treasury rule, if they don't fit in, figure out how to reward them or incentivize them for having worked for us. So I understand the Treasury rule, then we have to look beyond the Treasury rule, so. Hi, John. Okay, so that's what did you have anything, Commissioner Dreehouse?
Just want to weigh in related to the hazard pay issue. So I too, am open to changes that make sense as have been pointed out before. But I do want to be careful about the doing things related to the Treasury guidance. And if people don't qualify because of the Treasury guidance, then and if we were to do hazard pay for everyone that's not qualified, I have no idea what that number is. And so I would wonder what the impact on the general fund is related to that. So I assume that when we have this broader discussion, we'll have an understanding of those numbers and the impact of, at either amount, I suppose, what that would look like. Because I don't have a clear understanding of how many folks did not get the hazard pay and what that would look like. So is that something we're going to discuss come the beginning of next year? Okay, thank you.
And so when we talk about the Treasury rule and whether or not they qualify or not, we know how to do creative financing. We took money out of reserve for things like bike trails. I mean, we have a huge reserve like we've never had in decades. So there is a way to make this happen, and we have the money to do it. Okay, so no further discussion. Make a motion. Did you want to say? Okay. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adopt item number 2.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Commissioners.
much. Thank you. Have a good holiday, John. Okay, we'll move on to item 3. And item 3 is a resolution acknowledging the resignation of Aftab Puraball as Helmond County Clerk of Courts and appointing an acting clerk of courts to perform the duties of office until such time as a successor clerk is appointed and qualified to assume such office. As a matter of discussion on my end, the Honorable Fanon Rucker is here, and we certainly will allow him to say a few words when we're done, if we pass this, we'll see. And, but is there any discussion as it relates to this? One other thing I'd like to say, if I may, is that the commission had the option of just leaving that position open for a week or two, and we don't believe in having gaps in services. And so we decided as a board it would be much better to have a very qualified person in that position. In case something came up, we wouldn't be holding a bag and it would be empty. So, Vice President Reese.
Thank you, Madam President. First, for our own record, on our meeting agenda, I'd just like to have the clerk to correctly spell Fanon, F-A-N-O-N, since it will be in the records. It is correct in the resolution, but not on the calendar. So I just wanted to make that notation. Second is, you did mention the gap in service, and particularly when we talk about the clerk of courts, there are a number of issues over at the courts that this could impact if we didn't have a clerk there. People could, be delayed on bonds or be able to stay over at the court, not getting the services. And so I know many judges wanted to make sure that this is filled so that we could be seamless and continue to offer those services. And so Judge Fanon Rucker is a retired judge, so he understands the court system very, very well. Certainly is a practicing attorney and was started out in the private sector and has worked for many top firms in town. And so he definitely understands and knows the legal system. He's been the president of the African American Lawyers Association, and certainly has high regard in this legal component. So his legal knowledge, understanding, judges know him, he understands the court system, and it will give us a seamless opportunity to keep that moving until the Democratic Party appoints in that position that Aftab Puraball served and is now the mayor of Cincinnati. So certainly ready to move, and I want to thank retired Judge Fanon Rucker for saying that he'll accept this short-term thing to get us through the gap, and to keep things moving in Hamilton County. Yeah, very short. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been asked a couple times about the need for us to do this, and I think it's been articulated that we don't want to have any period of time when there's not someone down in the clerk's office signing important documents that are timely, and there are some timely documents. And so I'm more than happy to join my colleagues in recommending and approving of Fanon Rucker for this position. I did reach out to Judge Rucker to make sure that he was enthusiastic about the spot, and he is. And no matter what the time frame, because he's got the, as has been stated, the knowledge and the relationships over at the courthouse to make sure that this is seamless and that the documents that are timely get signed and that we don't have any kind of gap in service for the citizens of the county. So I'm excited for you, Fanon, Judge Rucker, and I'm happy to support the resolution.
Thank you so much. We'll move forward with the resolution. Resolution number 3, which I've already read, is I make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Would you like to come up and say a few words?
First of all, Commissioners, thank you all so much for this opportunity. Certainly appreciate our new mayor for supporting me to make this transition. I want to make something very clear. Besides the fact that the clerk's office is the front door for justice in our court system, the proper functioning of our court system is what determines whether or not, in large part, whether those who may not have access actually believe that that is a fair place for them to go, if they can have trust with it. Certainly many things that our new mayor has done in that office has solidified transparency and openness in the courts. I just want to say that in the very short time that I am serving as interim, I want to make that clear, very short time. I'm a lawyer with the Cochran firm. I'm having a good time practicing there, but I want to make sure that the courts continue to function properly. I have been sworn. I've signed the book. It is official as of noon today over across the street. So now, with you all's blessing, things can actually roll properly. They are going to begin with my signature once they receive word that you all have signed on to this resolution. So again, thank you all so much. I appreciate the very kind words and the trust and the support. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Madam President,
Yes.
let me just make one correction for the record. It's official as of 1:26 p.m.
Understood, Commissioner.
Because without our vote, it can't happen, but it is official. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We will move forward. Those are the last items on our agenda, but I certainly will open it up for my commissioners, Vice President Reese and Commissioner Dreehouse, for any final comments, because this is our last meeting until 2022.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just want to say certainly happy holidays to all of our staff, to my colleagues, and to those who are our constituents, Hamilton County. For many people, it's a cheering time and a great time to be with family, also a time to reflect. And then there's those out there who've lost loved ones. Like my mother, this is a tough time for our family, but a great time for my nieces who are 12 years old. So just wanted to say happy holidays and during this season. And while we do have, we're inundated with a lot of bad news, we got to take time to also be thankful for the good news. And there is good news out here. And there's good news that happened this year, and there's good news ahead of us. So we want to be thankful for what has already happened in the good way and what is in the future for goodness in the future. I do want to highlight a couple things. And in my first year, it's been interesting, I would say, being a county commissioner, and I look forward to next year to continue to build on a lot of things that we were able to do this year and expand on it in the years to come. But I wanted to highlight that there are a couple of things that I want to thank the administration. I want to thank Holly. She provided some of the information to us, and I just wanted to highlight to folks, a lot of times we vote on a lot of things. And one of the things that I have learned, I've been on the legislative side, I've been on the executive side, but this side is kind of the best of both worlds. And we can vote on stuff, but we are very concerned to make sure that what we're voting on is actually meeting the needs. And we are. And so I wanted to highlight that. One, I wanted to say thank you to everyone, all of the workers, but I want to give a special thanks to those who worked on the 513 relief bus. It was a new concept, a new idea, never been done before, and we're doing it in the middle of COVID. And a lot of times when you do something new, it gets a little scary. What is this new thing? At the beginning, many people had to volunteer to say, I'll do it. I'll sign up. I'll go out here. And they went out there and they helped a lot of people on the face-to-face in the middle of us fighting this COVID. And I just want to personally thank each and every one of them. I want to thank the university, I want to thank UC Health, because at the beginning, when it was just an idea, we said, where are we going to get a bus? How are we going to find a bus? And I want to thank Dr. Lofgren and his team that says, we're in. And we were able to use their bus as a body double, and they were the first nurses that were on the bus. I want to thank Kroger's that stepped up and said, hey, before we even pass the budget, we'll put in $20,000 if you need us. I want to thank the governor, who didn't have to do it, but at his 2 o'clock session said it's the right thing to do and we need to go mobile. Not only did we help people in Hamilton County, but they began to go mobile throughout the state because of Hamilton County's leadership. We have been a leader in helping to get the vaccines out. We have been a leader in getting the money out. You are reading a lot about other counties having to possibly turn money back in. We've been a leader to spend the money where it was supposed to be spent, and that's with you, the people. A couple stats that I want to highlight, and I don't want to, I'll be remiss if I don't mention Aisha Howard, who came on board, who had to coordinate this right in the middle of everything and has done a great job. We have gone to 79 different locations throughout Hamilton County. We've been as far out as Cleves and Harrison, but we also been in inner cities in Avondale and Bond Hill and College Hill, and there's so many more to name. 79 locations. I've only missed 4.5. But I got a chance to see people face to face and what they needed help on. 1,582 people were vaccinated through the 513 relief bus, which is basically Hamilton County on wheels, bringing the resources to the people instead of the people trying to find the resources. We also, on small businesses, we hosted a relief day for small businesses to increase awareness, and it worked. $6.35 million has been given away to small businesses who really need it. 700 businesses have been helped, and more is on the way. This board put $11 million unprecedented to help small businesses, so no one who meets the qualifications is turned away. We've done millions in rental assistance, $15 million to date, given out to renters to keep them, and it goes to the landlords. So it's a win-win. The people get to stay in their place, and the landlords get to get paid. We've seen over 4,000 people of Hamilton County and serviced them through Jobs and Family Services. And I want to give a huge shout out to Jobs and Family Services, as well as our Hamilton County Department of Health, which we now partner with on all of our vaccines. We were able to roll back the property tax with a rebate of 30%. That was huge that our board took this and moved forward. We have a homeowners fund of $5 million. We got $40 million for affordable housing, but we said $5 million, people need help right now. And so we've been able to help so far with $178,377. It's a new program. And we now have found out that we can also utilize those dollars to help pay delinquent property taxes. And that's the point, Madam President, you had brought up earlier about the U.S. Department of Treasury, and we had been asking about this for a long time. And what I was told was that we were waiting on the U.S. Department of Treasury, and I was shocked yesterday And I want to thank Jill Schiller, our new treasurer, who said, we don't have to wait on the Department of Treasury. Let's move forward. So I was a little confused because we were trying to get this done in May. But we do have it done now. But those are the types of tough questions that I'm going to continue to ask going into the new year, because we need help now. And then we were just told we're waiting on the U.S. Treasury regarding hazard pay. Which one is it? Is it the U.S. Treasury, or we don't have to have the U.S. Treasury? We need clarity, because we could have had people's property taxes being helped back in May when I introduced the motion, and then again when we rolled it out in October. So we want to have consistency. I am a proponent of one set of rules, and I think one of the things that's been hurtful in governments traditionally is that we've had one set of rules for one group and another set of rules for another group. Depends on what your group, depends on your status. And I've been fighting for one set of rules because we can't be equal only on the day to pay taxes. On tax day, we're equal, and we're unequal every other day. So I'm going to continue to push that envelope. But I wanted to bring that up, that we have $5 million available right now for homeowners. If you're mortgaged, you're behind, and you meet the qualifications, we got something to help you. If you're a homeowner and your gas and electric, you're behind, or your water bill, we got something to help you. If you're a homeowner and you're behind in your property taxes and you meet the qualifications, we have something to help you. And then we have one portal. When I came, we had 15 different websites. And as a entrepreneur and marketer, I said, wait, we can't be all over the place. We need to be able to do it with this thing right here called a smartphone. And we were able to work together, and Bridget, we worked together, and we've got 513relief.org. You can pull it up on any smartphone. It's easy, and everything is in one spot. So go to 513relief.org. If you're a homeowner and you need help, you're a renter and you need help, you want to know more about your property taxes, you want to know about small business and other services, we've got one-stop portal. So I'm proud of the work that we've been able to do, and I am even prouder that the things that I ran on, that they weren't just words, that we were able to come down here and have some of those things included and implemented. And I look forward to getting a little rest and spending some time with my family, and then be back in January, brand new and ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to just say thank you to staff. We have just gone through a number of different processes related to CARES Act in the last year, ARP this year. These amounts of funds coming down from the federal government have been a real asset to the citizens of this county, but also a challenge when it comes to trying to figure out how to best meet the needs of people in the community and also do it in a responsible way, and have some transformational dollars set aside, which we have done as well. So the staff has been very, very good and very thoughtful about the allocation of those dollars, and we have been able to hit immediate needs, and then I'll look forward to next year's conversations related to housing and mental health and workforce and youth development, because that's what's on the plate for next year. So I think we've put ourselves in a good position. I think the staff has allowed us to be in a good position. And related to the budget, which we just passed last week, Madam President, you mentioned a couple times how quiet those public hearings were. And while I think we all like to hear from folks at public hearings, I think the nature of having a budget that's stable and provides for the citizens and employees at the rate we can now was reflected in those public hearings. And so, again, a big thanks to the budget staff, to Jeff Aludo, the administrator, to Bridget and Comms and Holly Chrisman and all the rest. We just could not have done all this work without staff behind us, making sure that we had the correct documents in front of us and all the legwork that goes into reaching out to the community and understanding needs, in addition to the experience and knowledge that we bring to the table as well. So I just want to thank everyone for all the hard work. Looking forward to going into the next year with the same kind of pace, because we've got a lot in front of us. We've got some of these long-term dollars, and we also have MSD in front of us in January. So we've got a lot ahead, but have done some pretty good work, I think, in this past year. So happy holidays to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I have just a few comments, and I would be remiss if I did not talk about the success of our vaccination on December the 16th, as we talked earlier, and just wanted to give a few statistics. We reached, as Commissioner Kesterman was saying, we reached 96 people, which is great. Right before the holiday, we have people that have been vaccinated. 51% were male, 49% female, had a huge percentage of non-Hispanic whites, 60%, non-Hispanic black, 21%, and non-Hispanic other was 8%, and it goes down from there. What was interesting for me is the number of vaccines. For the first dose, there were 4 that just got their first, which was only a 4%. The second dose was 9%, and the third booster was 86%. So our focus is going to be to try to get more first dosages in. I know Bishop and also Bridget are working on that, and we're trying to see how we can motivate people even more to do that. And as far as the number of vaccines and the percentage, 5 to 11-year-olds, 1%, 12 to 17-year-olds, 0%, 18 to 29-year-olds, 18%, 18% also for 30 to 39-year-olds, 19% for 40 to 49-year-olds, 28% of vaccines were taken by the 50 to 59-year-olds, 13% was 60 to 69-year-olds, and 4% 70 to 79-year-olds, and none for 80 and up. So I wanted to share that and also reiterate the fact that our next clinic will be January the 19th here at our building, 11 to 2. There was a lot of effort that was taken by the staff, and I know Commissioner Kesterman had to call in more staff for that to happen. So we certainly thank him for that. And I just had a few words to say. As it was mentioned earlier, we ended this year with a structurally balanced budget. For those who don't know, it just means that we were not only balanced, which legally we have to be balanced, but structurally means we can add some icing on the cake for some things. Those facility capital projects that had not been able to be handled before, we can give 3% raises to our staff. There's so much that a structurally balanced budget can accomplish, and as I was saying earlier, our reserve is higher than it's ever been in decades. But the word for me for next year is more. There's so much more work for the board to do. More people to feed, more shelter for the homeless, more seniors to be cared for, more youth to engage, more businesses to save, more people to help stay in their homes, more affordable housing to build, more diversity and inclusion, more initiatives to fulfill, more ears to listen to its people, more vaccinations, more veterans to provide services, more laughter among our people, more prayers to get us through 2022. As I said, our next meeting will be January the 6th at 1 p.m., which would be our organizational meeting. And at this time, I would ask our board and those that are in the room to take a moment for silent prayer for the people of Hamilton County and also for our board. Amen. And have a great holiday. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese.
yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Thank you.